Hi, welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show, this Christmas week edition of the program, joined, as I always am, by my lovely and beautiful co-host, Mr. Anthony Schlegel. So we're excited about this. We've got a lot of stuff on the docket that we're going to get into with today's show. We're going to break down this Cotton Bowl matchup, Ohio State, Missouri, a little bit more than we've done, get in depth on it a little bit, talk about some of the other bowl games because it's the middle of bowl season. And not about you, Schlegs. I've consumed a lot of it. There's some more realignment talk. Florida State diving in, trying to potentially escape the ACC. How much is that going to cost them? What will that potentially look like?
Ooh.
So there's a lot there. We got our tailgate talk, our questions from our listeners, which are always one of our favorite segments, and then we'll wrap it up. But first, so let me throw this awesome Rose Bowl hat on here.
Throw it. Let's see it.
Get
It
it
looks
going.
beautiful.
And we're going to talk about our favorite Christmas movies because nothing
Ooh.
says holiday season quite like the Rose Bowl, quite like Christmas movies. And, as guys are sitting here practicing, trying to figure some things out, they're going to be flying out to Dallas on Saturday. So they'll be spending Christmas down in Texas, just like you, Schlegs.
Yep.
Favorite Christmas traditions. What do you typically dive into, day before, day of, day after? How does that all look?
Yeah. So Christmas traditions. I mean, we have a ton of ornaments, throughout the years, which, when you're putting them on.
What was that word?
Ornaments?
I think you threw a D in there. I thought you said ordinance, which
No,
there's
no, ornaments.
Okay,
And,
good.
like
We're good.
when you decorate a tree as a family, all the different ornaments, all the different kids, all the different years, the different experiences.
Yeah.
Like that's super fun. Our tree, we have the color lights but that's nostalgic from when I grew up and Steph grew up. They had the
You're a colored
lights
light
on
family.
there.
First of all, that's a big delineation. White lights or
Yes.
colored lights. We had two trees. We had our formal tree that was white lights growing up, and then we had a colored light tree in our house. But we always did white lights outside. Now my wife likes to do colored lights outside, so that's her domain. I let her have it. And we have white lights on our tree inside, and then we have a
Okay.
tree that faces the window strategically in the front that's more for decor that you can actually change it up. It's artificial one, but yeah, it's colored lights. So it's important to understand that because there's a hard line that I think some people go back and forth with.
Well, are you kind of new age? Like I think that's kind of what it is. Do you like clean and the white lights and the bright, and then maybe you
Yeah.
frost the tree? That's kind of a thing. And,
Like
and
you used
all
to
the
frost your
ornaments.
tips
I
back
mean,
in the
who
day.
doesn't like frosty tips back in the high school days? I definitely had that for sure. There's a pic floating around somewhere of that. So that is part of who you are and how you like to represent it. Archery is literally colored lights and handmade or ornaments that mean something predicated upon the year in which we got them. And I had an aunt that would always give my kids an ornament every single year in like a storybook. So we have that. Now we always go back and forth to Texas. We go to Texas for Christmas. So we do Christmas early at our house, and we go and we always did this. And we just recently lost one of our nanas. She was 92 years old, but we would go to her house on Christmas Eve. Christmas morning, we did it at Stephanie's parents' house, and then we would go later to her mom's mom, the other nana, and we would go to her house and we would do Christmas in the afternoon. And so it's like 3 Christmases. Kids loved it, but it was great. And that's what you do. You fellowship, you're around food, you're around each other, just making memories. What about you?
That's good. So this year's gonna be a little different because there's a lot of football going on. Typically, I think I played on Christmas once, played around,
Yep, me
played
too.
the day after, which is kind of even worse because then you're just in a hotel by yourself on Christmas Day, which
Yep.
no, it's not eventful at all. But what I've always done is I'll start out, I'll watch. We got a couple of movies we like in here that I always want to get in. Christmas Vacation,
Great
Four
one.
Christmases, the original Grinch, which I really like. If you can get Charlie Brown in there as well, that's a win. Not a huge fan of the Christmas Story, but I'll usually dabble in it a little bit as it comes through. But what I like to always start off with, and this is my Christmas Eve tradition, is I'll watch It's a Wonderful Life. And I didn't really like it when I was younger. It's black and white. Obviously, there's not a
Yes.
lot of special effects to it or anything, Schlegs, but it's an unbelievable story. And the reason that I really enjoy it is you sit there and you look at everything that goes on with old Bailey, George Bailey, and what goes on in life is I try to at the end of the football season, maybe the year didn't go as you wanted. Maybe you're hurt and beat up. You got a little more time left and everything, but you always felt like there's a lot of stuff going on. in football season. And like at the end of
Yep.
the year, I like to kind of use that to recalibrate and said, hey, and especially now, because I'm 40 years old, and I try to always remember this when I'm having a rough day in life. But It's a Wonderful Life really does a great job of framing it up for you. Is I look at everything that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of, championships, wins, losses, the heartache, the excitement, the friends I've made, the things I've got to do and experience, the jubilation, the heartache, like all of those things. Thought, hey, you know what? If I was, and I always look at this as kind of an inflection point, like that summer going into your freshman year of high school, you had said, hey, here's your life for the next 25 years.
Yep.
All of that's wrapped up there, the highs, the lows, the wins, the losses, the championships, the failures, like all of it there, the people you meet, the things you get to do,
Yes.
all of it is right there for you. And you can either take that or, and the Price is Right, you can go to the next showcase, the next, showdown, see what else is out there. My 14, 15-year-old self, man, I would have ran as fast as I could to get to do the things that I've had in life, the people
Yep.
I've got to meet, friends, you, AJ, all the guys we played with, winning
Yes.
national championships, playing in the NFL. Yeah, would you think, hey, maybe I could have played longer in the NFL. Maybe I could have made a Pro Bowl, won a Super Bowl, all kinds of different things out there. Maybe could have won another national championship. But you're talking about arguing about, sprinkles and whipped cream and
Yeah.
frosting, like the icing, the literally the toppings of the cake,
Yep.
not the entire meal. And so that always finds a way to kind of bring it back to neutral because I love all that. Wake up. We always do Christmas at our house. My in-laws are here, then my parents will come up. My brothers, they've always tried to come if they can. They're having more kids now, so it's tough for them. But then we'll go see a movie usually. It used to be like Star Wars, maybe Marvel, maybe like a Lord of the Rings or Hobbit or something with the kids. They all love that stuff. Come back, have a big Christmas meal, and then we'll start watching the Four Christmases, the vacations, all that stuff. Throw that out there. And this year we'll have to do 2 screens to have a little football as well. But
Gotcha.
that's kind of always what we do. And it's something that I really enjoy. I always find it fabulous. A lot of libations consumed, enjoy the gifting of the presents. I know you probably wait till the last minute. I try to wrap up Mrs. Carpenter's presents around around Thanksgiving, have them all in the hopper so I feel
Oh
good about
yeah.
where I'm at in life. Do your work early. Was just wrapping some earlier. And by the way, if you ever try to wrap a Keurig, like a giant square box, not the easiest thing in the world to do. I know my wife's not going to be watching this, especially before Christmas. But yeah, that was Keurig for our little house we got down in the river, Ohio River, so she can have her coffee and stuff. But yeah, that'll be all of that. And so it'll be exciting. We'll do split screen probably this year, Schlegs. Christmas movie on one side, NFL game on the other, as Thanksgiving meets Christmas, and we're going to have football all day. So it's going to be fantastic. So
I,
we'll have some more in to some of
yeah.
these Christmas movies, and we're up against it now. Some more of your traditions. We're going to talk a little bit about the Buckeyes, other bowl games, but we're going to break into this Cotton Bowl game next and take
Okay.
a look at Missouri and what they have to offer and how this game is going to look right here on the Bobby Carpenter Show on the Big Play Network. All right, welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show, the Christmas week edition, which is what y'all want to see. Hey, if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments for us. We love to hear that. Thanks for watching on Bally's as well. Wherever you're consuming this, all across the social media landscape, we really appreciate it. Going to dive into this Cotton Bowl now, Schlegs. Buckeyes taking on Missouri.
Yep.
They're leaving on Saturday about 3 o'clock. They will be spending the holidays down there in Dallas, Texas. Missouri, 10-2. Beat Kansas State in the non-conference. They beat Kentucky. They beat up Tennessee. Lost to LSU. Lost a pretty close one to Georgia.
Yep.
So you look at this Missouri team. The last time Ohio State played them, Schlegs, I believe 98, maybe 97. Andy Katzenmoyer was roaming around, and he smoked their quarterback. My goodness, one day. They were running the triple option back then. What are going to be the challenges that you see for this Missouri squad as Ohio State takes them on?
Well, I would say this one. I really like their running back. He's a great story, great testament. I believe D2 kid, right? 1AA transferred in. I mean, 247 carries, almost 1,500 yards. Good. Yeah, he's really good, guys. And I mean, he just plays the game the right way. And then that's one thing that we got to do. So stop the run, right? So you got a great running back. You got to stop the run. Brady Cook, and here's an interesting stat about him. Yeah, he's complete 66% of his passes. He has over 3,100 yards. But the thing is this, he has 20 touchdowns. He has 6 interceptions, but those interceptions are all come against top 25 teams. Buckeyes have one of the best defenses in the country. So then they also have a really good wide receiver in Burden. He almost has 1,200 yards.
Luther Burden, really good.
Really good,
Very
man.
talented player.
Eight
NFL caliber
touchdowns.
guy.
100% he is, man. 14.4 yards average, only 56 receptions, right? So, I mean, has had a phenomenal year. So when you look at that and you look at the kind of games that we've had and then our defense and the guys opting in to play in this game, it's going to come down to what we even talked about in that Team Up North game, and that's really winning second down. And I'm talking defensively, second down to set up third down. That was the one thing we didn't really do well in that game because they wanted to run the football, but you really got to win second down before you can win third down because you got to put yourself in a great opportunity. Michigan in that game, that Team Up North, they were 3 for 3 on fourth downs. Why? That's 4th and 1, 4th and inches. That's a higher likelihood of getting that than it is if it's 4th and 3 because you set yourself up for 3rd and 6. So with that being said, looking at their offense from a defense perspective, that's what we got to get back into is winning that second down to put us in an advantageous third down situation, Bob.
And so as you look at this for Ohio State's defense,
Yep.
you mentioned Cody Schrader, really good story. I mean, small school kid comes up playing really good football. They've got Luther Burden, their big play receiver on the outside. Their quarterback, Brady Cook, talented guy. They played Georgia. They lost by 9, but they're driving the football. Schlegs at the end of that game, down 6, and they're about at the 45, 50-yard line. I watched that game as close as any because I thought it was one that Missouri could potentially knock them off.
Yep.
And they're moving the football, running it on this vaunted Georgia defense. I think they had almost over 150 yards on the ground. And they were running the ball with success against Georgia. And then Cook throws an interception right around the 50. They try to take a shot, push the ball a little bit, get a chunk play, and unfortunately throw an interception. But they've got the receiver on the outside, the big play guy. Going to be a great opportunity for Denzel Burke to come in there and play and see what he can do. I think that's the main big reason why he's playing in this game. And maybe he comes back too, but the challenge of playing an NFL caliber wide receiver obviously going to be there. But I was really happy that you're going to have the linebackers playing, that you're going to have JT and Jack out there, that Ty Leak's going to be playing inside because you need those dudes in there because of Schrader, because of what they want to do. Like all teams don't run the ball the same. They love more of an outside zone slash, like where they're going to be aiming at the outside hip of the tackle, tight end, and it's a little bit of a zone. They'll have some gap iterations off of it, but they like to come downhill, man, and they like to try to punch a hole in the defense, and that sets up all their play action, the shots to burden down the field. And so you need your front 7 guys to be playing. You're going to need Josh Proctor. You're going to need Sonny Styles involved in this. You're going to need Jordan Hancock coming down and filling the run. It is going to be a team effort to try to find a way to be able to stop this running game because they are very good at it. Drinkowitz is good. They will stay with it, and they've got a pretty talented defense on the other side, so the game shouldn't get stretched on them where they're going to be able to continue to run the ball the whole 4 quarters.
And I think too, as we talk about the defense, that really does set up the offense. Now, let's not kid ourselves. Tyron, I think it's Hooper, really good. Yeah, really good linebacker for them. They got an NFL caliber corner in Chris Abrams Drain. Like they got some dudes over there as well. You don't be 10-2 and playing the SEC and be bad. I mean, they got a good defense. But here's the thing: I think us defensively setting up for a first start quarterback and then getting off the field and giving as many possessions as we can back to our offense and the guys that are coming back there. Like you got a Mecca that's going to be playing in this game. K's playing in this game. But really, like that's a cool dynamic too, as far as guys that we're going to see, right? And Ballard now stepping in, and Tate now stepping in, like that's going to be really fun to watch. And then also the dynamic of a healthy Travion Henderson and Dallin Hayden, like the complement of those two guys, because we really haven't been able to see them together because we've seen them like piecemeal, right? Like one's out, one's in. We're saving a red shirt. If Dallin's playing, it's like, okay, how does that look with Trevion, right? Like, what is the little nuances that he gives you over this one when they come into the game? Fun to watch. But again, defensively, I think sets us up for success in this with a first starting quarterback, How do we win third downs? Will you win third downs by second downs? Get them off the field, steal possessions, and own the time of possession for your offense. And that's really what it's going to come down to in Dallas.
Yeah, it's going to be important, like you mentioned. So looking at the offensive side with Devin Brown there to put him in winning situations. You don't
For
be sitting
sure.
there staring at 3rd and 8 plus, 3rd and 7
Nope.
plus. That's not how you want to win. But you got to be able to run the football. And who's
Yep.
going to be running? Hopefully Trey is healthy back. You feel pretty good about him. Dallin Hayden, like you said, both of those guys. But remember this too, Devin's a runner, and so he should
Yeah.
be pretty healthy. He obviously got hurt against Penn State, but I feel like you feel pretty good about where he's at now physically. So I think you're going to see some runs with him. I think you'll probably see a lot of different formations, a lot of different personnel groupings, because potentially not having Marvin out there, okay, that's going to do some things offensively to you that it's going to maybe limit you. But also with that, it's tough to maybe game plan and prepare if you're on the other
That's it.
side of this, because they don't really have a lot of film on Devin. They don't know what this offense looks like potentially if Marvin's not in there. Chip training was such a big part of it. He's no longer here. So how do they balance formation groups with tight ends, wide receivers? So I think Ryan, you give him some time, he'll get pretty creative, maybe some unique stuff, maybe some things you haven't seen before. You got the Swiss Army knife and Xavier Johnson, who,
Yes.
let's not forget, he's a senior. Like, you want to
Yeah.
send those guys out the right way.
Yes.
And so I'm excited to see how they could utilize him and maybe make sure these guys go out on a big note. And then also for this with Ryan Schlegs, with everything that's happened here, recruiting and signing day, and we'll get into that in the next segment here. But just this win for Ryan Day for confidence, mentality, program, everything that's going into it.
Yeah, I think what it does is those guys that are waiting on their grade, waiting on, making the decision as to they come back or not, I think it all goes into it, right? Like how everybody's performing at practice, finishing the year being 12-1 is a lot different than finishing the year being 11-2, because now you're going back-to-back losses. And that's something that you don't want going into the offseason. This kind of propels you into that offseason, strength and conditioning program. It's when you come off a win and you see the potential and what you could have the next year, that also plays in the minds of other guys.
Yeah.
I said, man, I really want to come back. I got some unfinished business. I can raise my stock. I want to do it. I'm excited about it. Boom. Now we go into that offseason and bring some juice and intensity. And I would say intentional focus on what do we have to do to go beat that team up north, to go win a Big Ten, to be in they're going to be in the CFP because it's expanded to 12. But number one, beat that team up north and win a Big Ten. So this just helps cap that season, but also propels you into 24. And that's really what he's looking at. Because, like, who do I got coming back? Who are the pieces around me? How are we going to plan that? Who else do we have to potentially go get? Do we like what we have from our, roster, from recruiting, et cetera, et cetera? And that just helps set you up for success in 24. Huge game.
Yeah,
Huge
it
game.
is. Well, especially for the young guys, Carnell Tate, Dallin Hayden, some of these dudes that are going to be playing, you have a chance to put a lasting imprint on your coach's mind of how they're going to game plan. And can you be someone they build around moving forward, going into the offseason, going into the spring? So very excited about that. Missouri, they're a 10-2 team that, was a win away from being in the SEC championship. So let's not have any mistakes about that. They're a good squad. They want to win this. This is a huge game for them, where Ohio State maybe a little disappointed not being in the CFP. Missouri, super excited to play a team like Ohio State in a game like the Cotton Bowl. So you better be ready to go. All right, coming up, we got some more big games. We'll talk about the CFP preview, maybe some more Christmas movies. We have National Signing Day stuff, all kinds of things. We'll be here for you. That bowl season, it's big. And your favorite Christmas movies, we'll find out next here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. Got a CFP coming up. Got a number of other bowl games, Peach Bowl, Orange Bowl, a whole slate of bowls throughout the week. Listen, man, people complain about there's too many. I'll tell you this, Schlegs. If I've been at home and I'm not doing anything, I'm watching one of these bowl games on TV.
It's facts.
We watched Syracuse, South Florida. Our guy Alex Golish beating the heck out of the Orangemen.
Woo.
I watched Georgia Tech and Central Florida on, what was that, Friday night? I mean, I'm consuming all of this, and I'm just really cheering, unless I know somebody, for a competitive game. And I just want to watch something that's going to be entertaining to me. So, Dustin Fox, our guy, he did the Myrtle Beach Bowl. There's over 1 million people watching. There's 2 million people watching. So they try to say no one watches these games. People watch at home. They may not go, but they're going to watch at home. What they do, I'm going to probably do a little split screen on Christmas. We talked some of the traditions earlier. your favorite Christmas movies. Where are we going in the Schlegel household?
Oh man. Well, I mean, but it's funny. Okay, so before I get into that, Bob, I'm sitting there yesterday with my dad and his wife Jean, and we're sitting there, we're talking, and it's Christmas, and my dad literally just drops his story on my kids, and I said something like really nice to my dad, how I appreciated him, like working out kids over Christmas break, didn't make any money.
Yeah.
My dad, like that's why I became a coach. My dad showed me what it is to invest in kids, and then for some reason he just dropped this nugget on my kids about. And again, last week we talked about how I got arrested. Well, I also got arrested at DeSoto. Now I was coming back from the Air Force Academy prep school over Christmas break, and I had a warrant
There's a
out
theme to a lot of these stories.
a lot of things, I thought tickets were paid. They were not paid. That's a whole other story in and of itself. So I land in DFW from the prep school, and my wife now, Stephanie, we're dating. She comes and picks me up, and then we drive to the high school where any 18 or 19-year-olds would go behind the back of the high school to have a private conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, just a private conversation. We're just sitting there talking. Okay. Sure. Because we didn't want to do it at somebody's
slow jams
house,
playing
right?
in the background.
Yeah, who doesn't? I wasn't driving my Camaro with the seats go back. I think she had a red Firebird at the time. She might have changed that for the Monte Carlo. Anyways, that being said, so we're back there, and just so happens that a cop rolled up as we were, just beginning the conversation, and she was like, "Don't give him your license," and I'm like, "Hey, I got this. Don't worry about it. I don't want you to be in trouble." So I gave him my license, and sure enough, I had a warrant out for like tickets I didn't pay or something from high school. So of course I get arrested, and I call my dad, and my dad's like, "What?" And he comes in there, and he's super pissed. Like my dad's like, "Were they naked?" Like, no. And he's like, "Why would you arrest him? He just got back from the prep school at the Air Force Academy." He's like, just absolutely livid. So the punishment for that was he made me drive from Dallas, DeSoto, Texas, to Newton, Iowa, 12 hours straight. He's like, "I paid for your tickets, so you're driving 12 hours. Like that was his punishment. Ooh. He didn't tell the kids like all the other nuances, but just how he bailed me out and how he made me drive. And I was like, man, that's really great parenting. I appreciate it. I didn't have to pay you back. But that getting us into the Christmas spirit of movies, I will say this, Bob, I'm not more of like a movie guy. Like I watch the Christmas movies for individual characters. And one of my all-time favorite Christmas characters, there's two, and they kind of are very similar. Yukon Cornelius and John McCain are gas station ready and Waffle House ready. And though Die Hard is the anti-Christmas movie, still yippee-ki-yay, he's always game, right? And if you look at Yukon Cornelius, the dude's packing an ice pick, a revolver, a knife, a hammer, and he tracks the abominable snowman. Like that's a freaking dude right there. Now, then you get into the more cheerful things. I love Buddy the Elf. Buddy the Elf is spreading Christmas cheer for all to hear.
Kind of remind me of Buddy the Elf a little bit.
I am a little bit, man. I am. Like my youngest son
you love
Buddy
syrup.
the Elf.
You guys have that in common.
Gosh. Super swimming in syrup. That's how I like to consume my French toast or my waffles or my pancakes. They have to be swimming. And then Clark Griswold.
Like, when you have a pancake, let's be honest, it looks like French onion soup. You basically get in a bowl of syrup and you just set the pancake on top like the crouton.
I mean, listen, when they come in and I order this, I said, I'm gonna need extra. So like, how many do you think extra? And I know predicated on the restaurant, they give them in the little jars. I'm like, oh, that's a solid 5. Or if they bring out the big thing, I'm just like, and they bring one out and it's only like 2/3. I'm like, I think you need to bring the full one. And then they do. And then I absolutely dominate it. And there's like a 4th left. They're like, wow, you really do use a lot of syrup. I'm like, absolutely. I get my full bang. It's just like when you go back and get the cups, right? And you're getting Cokes. Like you got to keep going back. If I bought that one, I got to make sure I get my money's worth getting those refills. Anyways, Clark, he just wants his family to have memories. Kevin McAllister, who hasn't as a kid thought of ways that you're going to just absolutely destroy people, if they try to come into your house, like that's what you do. And
absolutely.
Consequently, people in that movie give the mom a hard time like she left her kid. And I'm like, no. It's the dad. Where's the dad in all of this? Like, you should be counting up kids. We were at the airport the other day and I'm like, hey, listen, this is a team event right here, man. We got 8 bags. Like we're all serving each other. You can't just be consumed with you, man. It's a team deal. Dad's looking, man. It's a crazy world. I got my head on a swivel, I never know what's going to happen. So I need your help. Everybody's on the same team. So again, I like characters when I watch those, and I consume all of those movies as well, Bob. What, besides A Wonderful Life, like you mentioned, what's your favorite?
We enjoy Four Christmases. I enjoy
Yeah.
John Favreau, Tim McGraw, the house there when they go to his dad's, Bob Duvall. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's how we kind of envision. My dad every year goes, "This is ridiculous," and then he's laughing, like spitting out his drink as he watches that family. I'm like, because there's a lot of that to our family. I mean,
Yes, there is.
it's just all the elements of four families into one is
Mhm.
kind of what we're dealing with. So it's entertaining. We do have two games here. We'll quickly get to,
Okay. Okay. I'm
especially
sorry.
this Alabama Michigan game. Schlegs. It's going
Yeah.
to be the Rose Bowl. Got the Rose Bowl hat on here. Some of their unbelievable swag they were kind enough to send out. And how we feeling about that? I feel like this is a game that in the first two series, you're going to have a good idea of whether or not Michigan can move the ball and if Alabama can really start driving it on Michigan.
I mean, really, it's going to come down to how does Michigan's defense go against Milroe. I mean, he's their guy. I mean, we've
Yeah.
seen, earlier in the season, we saw teams run on Alabama, but then in that Georgia game, just saw Alabama's defense kind of rise up a little bit. But to them, offensively, it's all about Milroe. And so if you allow him to extend plays, he will beat you. We've seen that happen. Corum obviously is the dude. So to your point, Bob, in those first 2 to 3 series that are scripted and what we're going to do for this game is really going to set the tone. Can Michigan run the football? And I believe that Michigan, much like when they played Ohio State was right there in that game. And we made 5, 6, 7 mistakes, and we still had the ball with a minute left to go score down 6. But Michigan that team on North played a perfect game for them. They were mistake free and they got some breaks. So can they do that again? I think JJ McCarthy's going to have to push the ball a little bit. He has 19 touchdowns, 4 picks. Yes, he can run and get some extra yardage, but Alabama has to force them into those situations. When Michigan really is at their, playing their best, they're in third and short all the time. JJ McCarthy doesn't have to push the ball vertical to go get those things. They use that tight end versus up very well, but that's not his bag. When they're really good, they win first and second down. Go ahead.
They do. He's gonna have to make plays. He'll make plays on third down.
To.
They don't have to be pushing the ball. They'll have to have some chunks, but he's gonna have to make plays. But we got to take a quick break here. Florida State trying to push out of the ACC. What's it going to cost? How's it going to look? All that there. Plus, Ryan Day and signing day for the Bucks. Did it end with a happy ending, Schlegs? Your favorite. We'll find out next here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Welcome back in here to the Bobby Carpenter Show. And hey, got a lot of stuff going on. We'll get back to that Rose Bowl with Michigan and Bama. But first, some stuff here with Florida State. And we've talked about them off season, trying to potentially get out of their grant of rights with the ACC. Where would they potentially go? What would it look like? What would it cost? And so as we go through this, now Florida State, they've met with their board of regents. They are suing the ACC. Now, do they just want a greater share of the pie? More dollars? Maybe. Do they want to try to get out? Probably, if they can. What's that going to look like? What's it going to cost? You threw out their Schlegs potentially earlier. I thought it was going to cost $500,000. Other people started talking about $130 million. $500 million, I mean. $130 million withdrawal fee. Here's the reality. And you might not know this, like, so the grant of rights, all the schools sign it. They give their rights over to be collectively negotiated by the ACC. They in turn get dollars for playing these games. None of the schools have a copy of the grant of rights agreement. Ooh. There is one copy of it, Schlegs, that resides in the ACC headquarters that you have to go in there with an ACC representative that watches you. You're not allowed to take pictures of it. You're not allowed to copy it. You're only allowed to go through it. This is basically, you need Nick Cage out of National Treasure, like the Declaration of Independence. That's basically what we're talking about here, is what the ACC grant of rights are. So there's a lot of different things thrown around and nobody's ever seen the verbiage of it or publicly, because you're not allowed to get the verbiage of it publicly out. So Florida State might be suing them partly just to say, hey, we don't know if we can even get out or what it's going to look like.
Right.
Because our attorneys have to go in there and they just sit down and like, here it is. And you just read it and maybe take some notes, but you're not allowed to take anything in and out. I mean, this is like Gandalf over there looking about Sauron and like the little deal. Nick Cage, I mean, you got all this stuff. The fact that nobody has a copy of this and no one can remove it from there, like it's like the stinking Library of Congress or something. is absolutely insane. And so that is why there's all this different information Schlegs floating around as Florida State's trying to say, hey, we want out and we want to see what it looks like, but nobody really knows.
Right. Yeah. We shall not pass. Gandalf. And when you brought that description of it, I thought of Mission Impossible with all the lights.
Yeah.
And
Tom
he's floating
Cruise
down to
hanging
the
there.
ceiling and he's like doing stuff, you know what I mean? To try to get that thing. That's absolutely wrong that nobody has a copy of that. That I could see him just suing for the fact that we want to be able to see it so we can get out. And, here's the deal, regardless or not, I mean, you could say, is it because they didn't make the playoffs? And I think they didn't make the playoffs regardless if you were in the Pac-12. Now, if you're in the Big Ten and you did this, you probably do make the playoffs. Or the SEC, you probably do. But they still were down to their third string quarterback in this. And I understand all those different nuances to it. So I'm not going to really get into that. I will say this, though. Right now the Big Ten sits at 18 teams. Could it potentially, if they do separate from the ACC and somebody's like, okay, it's not that much to actually exit, does it make sense for the Big Ten? And again, the Big Ten prides itself on academia and all these different things. They fit, man. They're like 53rd in the nation and number 23 in
They've
public
gotten better.
schools.
They've gotten a lot better.
They've gotten significantly better over the years. They actually are better than Michigan State, Penn State, Indiana, Iowa, and Nebraska. I didn't look up the Pac-12 guys that we brought in, but they're better than those already. So it fits, and you get to recruit Florida because you got a footprint. It doesn't really help TV rights because of Tallahassee.
No, it does, because you would bring in Florida.
You're bringing in Florida, you're bringing in Tampa, you're bringing in Orlando. That's huge. Those are huge markets. Miami, people all over the state. You have Florida and Florida State. So it makes sense. Also, they got 57% females on that campus. So that's a win. So,
Florida State was started, Schlegs, as an all-girls school.
I know.
Back in the day.
I know it was. So, so I would say this, does it make sense? Yes. Does it make sense that we're understanding now because of, this agreement, why they're trying to sue them so they can have access to it? Yes. Would it make sense for the Big 12, Big 10 to potentially grab them? It would also go into who else wants to leave the ACC that's a blue blood. Could you get a North Carolina in a package deal? Now you have 20. Now you're on the East Coast in the Carolinas along with the footprint of Florida. That's great. Now you can recruit all those areas and you have a really good product that you're putting on the field year in and year out of like blue blood programs in the Big 10.
I don't think the SEC wants them because it doesn't give them any more TV markets. From a competition standpoint, it'd be good. The question is, do the Big Ten, would they go after two, Florida State plus Miami, Clemson, and North Carolina? Do you throw a Notre Dame in there? Do they try to go for 4 and take 4 of those 5? Like, it'll be interesting to see. And if you do that, and that's probably, in my mind, Schleg, the next step, the final step, the coup de grace, if you will, to what we now know as regional college football. Even though the Pac-12 is gone, like after that, it's probably Tony Petitti and Sankey sitting down together and being like, how do we want this to look? Do we collectively bring our rights together and then go forward and say, hey, I know we're all getting 90 or 100 million now. If we bundle 50 teams that everybody wants to see, can we go there and get 120 million per school? Is that going to be better for everybody? So you could even see potentially something like that happening in that potential super conference that everybody's ultimately talking about joining there. Like, so, a lot of different stuff. And the real question is, are you willing to talk to, the Florida State administration and to go in there and to keister that grant of rights and to keister it on out of there and find a way to smuggle it out however you have to, in whatever orifice it takes? Well, we'll see if you're able to do that. Coming up, our favorite segment of the week. Oh man, it's going to be great. It's our tailgate talk where we answer your questions, the stuff that you want to know. How do you get them to us? You get them to us on Twitter at Bobby Carp Show, at BCarp3, at Schlegel Valley. Fire those away every week and get it going. So we'll answer all your questions coming up next. Thanks for tuning in to the Bobby Carpenter Show. And now we're going to do our favorite segment. It is our tailgate talk where we answer your questions, Schlegs and I. And you know what? We haven't really talked about signing day and recruiting a lot. Buckeyes signed a national class. It's top 5. I think a lot of people look at it like that. And if you look at, if not the biggest class, I think 20, 21 commits. There's schools that are well over 30. So maybe didn't have the volume. But if you look at an average ranking per player, it's second, I believe, only to Bama or Georgia. So right there. 5 stars in this class. And so Nick throws out this question to us, as Nick throws out questions every week.
Appreciate you, Nick.
Fantastic. Nick Seipel here. Any concerns with lack of depth at running back, O-line, and D-line in the class? Can they backfill with the portal in January? will dudes still be available in the portal in January? Well, first of all, I'll take a little bit of this.
Go ahead. Do it.
O-line, I think they had really good depth in the class. I think it's 4 or 5 offensive linemen. D-line, there is some concern. Now, if they would have lost their prize jewel, Edric Houston out of Georgia, that would have been very, very tough because they signed, I believe, 1 or 2 other defensive linemen, but it wasn't a very big D lineman class. Neither was last year, so they may have to start go portal shopping here. They got Eric Mensa out of Stanford or out of Virginia as well, but I think those are your only 2. Got a couple of running backs in here, so you feel okay potentially about how that looks on that side of it. But there will be dudes coming in because you have to remember in January, that's when you're probably going to see guys from the CFP schools ultimately get in because their dudes are playing.
Yep.
But the Ohio State's still heavy on scholarship, Schlegs. So this signing day could have been rough. Thankfully, Edric stays on board. Jeremiah Smith, the #1 wide receiver in the country, potentially #1 player, depending on where you're looking. He commits, and so it ends up being good. You throw him, Aaron Nolan in there, some talented dudes from Ohio, and it turned out to be a pretty good day for Ryan Day and the crew.
Yeah, it absolutely did. And again, I take all these recruiting stuff with a grain of salt, guys. I mean,
You can say that. So here's the thing: individual players, I'll say that, but look at the top teams: Georgia, Bama, Texas, Oregon, Miami. All right, Ohio State, yes. But like you look at the top 10, there's a reason why 7 of them are always in that top 10.
For sure.
And then they're always at the top 10 at the end of the year.
And what I say by that is the ranking of them because they're based on the total score.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you have more volume, you're going to have a higher score. Ohio State has 20 guys, but they got the most 5-star guys.
Yeah.
So again, we went for quality over quantity, but that also is because we're roster heavy on scholarships.
Maybe not length.
Right. Yeah. So again, that's what I'm saying. When you look at the rate, oh, man, we just got out recruited. No, you didn't. You got a lot of quality guys that are going to be coming in and playing for the Buckeyes. And you also have guys that potentially are going to stay. So just pump the brakes. It's okay that you're 5th, not necessarily 1. But again, you look over the average, I think you're 2 or 3, and it's Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. So when you look at the overall rankings, understand that it's based on girth, right? The amount of guys, 28, 25, 26, we had 20, right? But ours is just straight up vascular and just symmetrical and really nice.
That's nice.
Solid. Yeah, you like that?
Well, you got the solid tip at the end with Jeremiah Smith, which you needed. And that was going a long way. Did you see Ryan's response? He's at the presser, they're talking. And, it's like, hey, Jeremiah Smith said he's going to commit. And he's like, oh. They asked him, there's a great quote that no one else picked up. It's like, how are you going to relax tonight? Or what are you going to do this evening? He's like, that first beer is going to taste really good.
Really good.
And that's the truth, man, because recruiting day on signing day, it's not like coaching or playing. It's a game where you can impact it. You're just sitting there literally waiting for information to come in. We faxed our stuff in. Now these guys are docu-signing, everything else. And the Jeremiah Smith thing's floating out there, and people are like, hey, he's meeting with guys at Miami. They're up in the offer. He's a Hollywood, Florida guy. So he's right there, in the South Florida area. And like Buckeye Nation, I mean, it was like meltdown city. People's faces were melting off, worried about potentially losing him because I don't know how good he is. I know that there's people have compared him, to like Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss, all these elite players. He's supposed to be a generational guy. And I know every class has generational guys, but he's supposed to be the man. And Hartline nailed it down and got it done.
And, also like Tim Walton's did a phenomenal job of recruiting as well in the secondary. And again, the value proposition, like the coaches, when they go out there, they literally are the salesman for your program. And it's like, hey, man, you want to go be a DB at Ohio State? Well, look at the room that you're competing against every single day. Those are first-round draft picks. You're competing against them. We play at the biggest stage. We're going to get you NFL ready here. I coached in the NFL. I am a Buckeye, right? Like everybody's out there selling the program and themselves of how you can develop these guys for the next level. That's what moves the needle along with the NIL. And with that too, you also have to be strategic. And that's why that first beer tastes so good because you can for a hot minute, I can take a deep breath and say, we got it done. Yeah. And we got the ones that we wanted. And did some flip? Yeah, that's fine. Right? It's not the end all be all. But that's why there's so many more nuances to this. It really is a business plan, right? Moving forward of how do we strategically go and do we get offense linemen? Who do we attack in the portal? How much NIL money do we give? Like there's a lot of things, a lot of variables that go into this.
And that NIL thing is important because every dollar you give to someone, you can't give to someone else. And there's not
Right.
just endless dollars to get. So you have to be strategic in how you allocate it. The good news is in this class, you get your quarterback. You get Aaron
Yep.
Nolan, 5-star guy. So you have a quarterback every class to always come in and compete. James Peoples, the running back out at San Antonio, is supposed to be really good. But you get the top Ohio guys. You get Aaron Scott, the Springfield product, who's really good corner. You get Garrett Stover, Cade's cousin, played
Yep.
safety, probably going to play linebacker at Ohio State, Bryce West, corner out of Glenville. So you're getting the guys that you want to in-state, the top dudes. Demario Witten, the tight end, also out of Glenville. So they got a lot of really talented dudes. Very excited.
Hey,
And
Peyton Pierce, man. Peyton Pierce,
Peyton
Texas,
Pierce
right there out of Dallas.
out of Texas.
Wrestler. Yeah, man.
Huge. They're
Dude.
very excited about him. It's going to be huge. We're long for a break here. Final segment of the program. We give you some of our parting thoughts, and I'll show you one of my favorite Christmas gifts coming up next on the Bobby Carpenter Show. All right, final segment of the show here. One of our favorites. Give you some parting shots. You know, Ryan Day, relief, Buckeyes, top 5 class. A lot of guys potentially coming back. This should be shaping up for hopefully what could be a nice opportunity in 2024. But we got Christmas here, Schlegs. We're talking about, you know, Christmas. My kids have their little Christmas, you know, winter play now, they call it. They sing some Christmas songs, some Hanukkah songs, everything else. And my daughter was really nice. Something happened. We were talking about Christmas miracles. And my youngest son, Caleb, who's 7, goes, and my wife, like, yeah, it's like a Christmas miracle, you know, what she did. And my son, Caleb, goes, no, I'll tell you about a real Christmas miracle. It's when they only had one candle left for one day, and that candle lasted 7 more days. And I said, hey, buddy, I love where your head's at there. Great miracle. That's Hanukkah, not necessarily a Christmas miracle. And enough oil to burn for 8 days, not just the one. That's where that ultimately came from. You know what? It was a good try.
Yeah,
And then
no doubt.
I did it with my neighbors, Schlegs. I love a good. The ultimate gift is something you would love to have but never buy yourself, or you didn't even know existed.
Yes.
So I got this over here, Schlegs. You know, I like some of the bourbon. You know, like some wine, some spirits, and I've got some decanters. I love to let it sit around. And so I got one, Schlegs. My buddy got it for me, and I don't know if you're a fan of the Marvel, but the Thor hammered decanter right here, Schlegs.
I love
want
it.
you to take a nice look at this guy.
Oh,
I mean, it's got all the trappings of it. It's got a nice little case, nice little stand. But I mean, there's no better way to pop this and to pour a nice little glass of bourbon right here in Thor's Hammers. We get a nice little close look for everybody. You like that thing, buddy?
Bro, that's super sexy, man. I would just drink it right from there, man. That's called doing it neat right there.
Oh yeah,
Neat.
from the hand, straight from the
From
handle.
the handle.
Pop that thing off.
Yeah, just boom. Can't do it on Bally's, but yeah, that's what I would kind of do. That's a beautiful gift. I remember at Christmas, I had 2 gifts. I had my wife gave me a cowboy up belt buckle. One
And then
Christmas.
she said the second gift
State.
was taking the belt buckle off, I heard.
No doubt. No doubt. Of course it was. That's my gift to her. No, and then she also gave me like this rustic handmade elk horn Bowie knife that I would hunt pigs with. It had like a leather sheath on it. Freaking awesome. I still got that. Like, I don't know. It was sitting somewhere, and all of a sudden he was 9 at the time. My 9-year-old came in. It was like, hey, what's this, Dad? I was like, oh, that is mine, and that will go now in the gun safe. So thank you very much for having that. I appreciate it. But those are 2 of my favorite gifts. Though, hey, side nugget, throw that back up there afterwards. Send me a screenshot. I'll put that in there. Hey, Santa, can we get that on the old Amazon for Papa Schlegs for Christmas under the tree? Santa, do your thing.
I don't know where it came from, but it was elite. I was super pumped to get it. Very, very excited. So Schlegs, we appreciate it, man. Merry Christmas to you and your family. We're going to probably have a guest host on the next show. You're going to be down in South or Central America doing God knows what down there. So go Bucks. Merry Christmas. Thanks for tuning in to the Bobby Carpenter Show.